Hello. We're going to take a look at the first chapter, which is about how businesses have to deal with change, and change is the only constant in business. So we look at this, and the as it talks about business movement breakneck speed, and that's true because as we look at change, there's always a dynamic movement in business. Customers change, the ethical practices change, and how what is expected among businesses. And we're going to talk later in the course about corporate social responsibility and what that means in the expectation of businesses. Some of the definitions of business. You take a look here for what a profit is. And again, the profit is how much money they make after they spend money producing their product, they sell it, what they have left over is the profit. And then, of course, the loss is where you do not receive as much money as it costs to make the product, which, of course, we don't want to do. We won't be in business very long. Couple of things here. Standard of living, we're how much population, a country, what can they do in order to sustain themselves, what they can afford, and then the quality of life. You can see here about their well-being experience, how people are being able to live their lives and being able to just be comfortable where they're at. We talked about this a little bit in the overview of the chapter. You got the Industrial Revolution, which occurred in the mid 1700s, went to the mid 1800s, and we're starting to see here more of an advancement of production and how we're starting to produce more for less. Now you got the entrepreneurship era, and you see this is in the second half of the 1800s, and this is taking a look at the ideas of people and how they're starting to become more on larger scales. You think about Rockefellers, you think about the Carnegies. Okay, these folks really built their empire on entrepreneurship. Now we have these three eras here. So the first of all, production era. Now we're starting to really fine tune our processes. We've got through the Industrial Revolution where we're able to make products and make things on a grander scale. But now we get into production era. You think about the assembly line for Ford, for the cars, Henry Ford. So that is something we can take a look at in terms of production era. The marketing era. This started around the 1930s with radio, and then it really took off in the 1950s with TV. The 1960s, you had color TV. So now you're able to see the vibrancy of a product. And then we move our way up to where we are now in the relationship era. And that is with customer relationship management, came off the internet, better technology. We can track where we're at in the internet. So these are the different types of contexts in the history of business. We're seeing ourselves in a relationship era now. We're going to be here for a long time. This may even get more fine-tuned as we move on in time. Nonprofits. Now, these are organizations that will not their purpose is to make money. Yes, they want to make money, but they're not here. They don't have shareholders. They have people where they want to give the money back to organizations to help people to do the greater good. All right, and so these ideas that you see here about focusing on health, human services, giving back to communities. Yes, like I said, they have to make money, they have to be profitable, but their goal is to make the surrounding community which they're in better. So in regards to factors of production, you can see these four things in front of you. So we have the natural resources, water, land, minerals. So water is very big, and don't discount the importance of fresh water to an organization. So for example, in the Kenosha area, you got Racine, Milwaukee. Obviously, we have Lake Michigan. And so we can start taking in Microsoft with larger facilities for cloud coverage. That needs a lot of water to cool off the plants. It needs it or cool the plants. Yes, the plants, the equipment in the plants. So that water is very, very important. So you'll see more of these companies closer to larger bodies of fresh water. Capital, I think you have a pretty good idea about. That's money in terms of what we can do to buy products, to buy our resources that we need to make our final products. And then we work our way to the entrepreneurship, which is, the idea of um, taking our ideas, making it work, having a production process in order to produce what we've envisioned. So we see these five areas of the business climate, from economic to social, global, technological, and competitive. I don't want to talk about each one of these specifically. One thing you've probably noticed in the presentation now and it'll be this way for the rest of the class, is that I'm not going to talk about each point directly. What I'm going to do is hit a couple highlights in each slide and then move on. Otherwise, these slideshows will be forever, and I don't want to do that to you. So just a couple things we'll take a look at in regards to social environment. We're looking at the role of business in society, the competitive environment. We're taking a look at more of a strategic aspect of it, the different types of businesses that do very similar products, and so there's a lot of competition in that. So we take a look in the first part here of the last slide, the economic environment. Again, this could be affected by the government, the actions that they take. Um, We'll learn later in the course about the difference between fiscal policy and monetary policy. Just real quickly, fiscal policy is the tax policy of the government, usually comes from the legislative branch. And then monetary policy is from the Federal Reserve. And that's a totally different independent entity than the legislative branch. All right, so in regards to leading edge versus bleeding edge, what we want to do is we want to be able to get to market as fast as we can. We want to be first to market. We're going to take a look later at the business cycle, and we want to be embryonic. And what that means, embryonic is one of those that they're first to market, they're developing new technology. What we're going to see is most people join in on the when a product is a mature market, which means that a lot of mistakes have been taken care of. Won't see too many mistakes in software. The production process has been refined. So it's a little more safer, conservative way of approaching buying new equipment, but the speed to market makes a huge difference. The workforce advantage we look here is that, the best team, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever sport that you follow, usually the best team wins. And the same at work. If you're able to hire the best people who can do the job better, not cheaper, but better, faster, then you're going to be successful. And that's going to be one of the hardest things that a manager has to do. And again, another thing we get into the course here is a management class in operations. And we'll look at hiring people and making sure that we have the best team possible. So this idea of investing in worker satisfaction, yes, we want to make sure that our people are happy. We want to make sure that they want to stay, because if people stay, that means we have to worry about turnover. Also, with people staying, they're going to refine their production processes and get even better as they move on. In regards to technological environment, you can see here in regards to the business technology, the equipment used, the software used in order to increase production. This is always constantly changing. And, like we talked about the first part of the chapter, there's a constant change in business. This is the driver of it, is the technology. And you could sit and as you're looking at this video, you can think about all the different technology changes that's occurred in your lifetime. And no matter how old you are, there has been changes in technology. If you are, if you're a little bit younger, if you're in your 20s, you've probably gone from, an iPod to an iPad to an iPhone. If you're a little bit older like me, you've gone from a rotary phone to now to an iPhone. I mean, total change. So these changes in technology are always happening. The social environment, you can see the trends down here: diversity, the aging population. Right now we have 4 different work groups in the workforce, and what I mean by work groups is the generations. So we got the Gen Xers, we got the Gen Ys, we got Gen Zs, we got the baby boomers, and we got another generation coming in, Gen Alpha, coming in soon. So you got these 4 to 5 different generations in the workforce. And one of the biggest challenges for leadership in business is each one of these generations has different challenges. They have different needs. And so you got to balance these together. In regards to the global environment, we look at this and the free trade. Trade is what we're going to spend a little bit of time on in the next chapter when we talk about economics. And we'll talk about comparative advantage and what that means. But typically what happens is that trade between two countries is beneficial to both because country A will not be able to produce something that country B can, maybe don't have the materials, maybe don't have the equipment, where country B can produce things that country A can, so they can trade together. And trade helps everyone, and it's a concept that needs to be explored, and it's a concept that has to occur because every country cannot produce everything for themselves. So that's it for the first chapter. I hope you enjoyed the discussion, and I look forward to talking to you throughout the rest of the course. And as always, please let me know if you have any questions. Take care of yourselves.